All right. Hey, folks, this is Will with Cars, Music, and Movies. We got a special guest with us today. This is Johnny K. Welcome, Johnny K.
Will, good to see you. Greetings from Florida. You look well there out in sunny California.
Thanks, man. So do you. And for the folks out there watching, we've known each other a while, and you have some really great car stories. We're going to talk films a little bit later on, do a little update of some things that are in the pipeline and happening a little bit later on. Yeah, John, we've got a number of cars. You can start with whatever one you want. I know you've had experience with Jaguar, Aston Martin, a Lexus, a Corvette, and Saturn, which is no longer around. And yeah, maybe you'd like to tell the listeners your experience with those and any music choices or music that you were listening to at the time that kind of matches the era of those cars, or any movies that were popping in and around those times may be cool too, just so we can kind of complete the cocktail. But the majority of this stuff is about cars, so no
Sure.
pressure.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
well, I mean, the first, again, thanks for having me, but the very first car that I owned myself was, yeah, it was a 1995 Saturn. They're from General Motors, no longer their newest, and then one of the first to go. I'm not sure how many years they stayed around, but my experience was a good one. I mean, overall, it was fine. I was quite young. I was about to turn 22. Yeah, it was a good ride. It was kind of a turquoise green, and I think about 130 horsepower. As far as the music of the time, how I would say that would be intertwined, that was mid 90s. So I was listening to, well, I've always been where I grew up in the upper Midwest. It was always kind of rock that I would hear a lot and was introduced to. So I listened to Van Halen still. In the 90s, they were still around. They were still producing albums, Def Leppard, the Scorpions. But then a lot of new bands were coming in that I heard on the radio anyway. So a lot of pop hits. I enjoyed some pop music with some good hooks were good sometimes. And the type of ride that the Saturn was, I guess it was just kind of a happy-go-lucky car. So some type of sugary pop hit would probably work best. Boy, what would it be? I don't know. Maybe something from Ace of Base.
Oh, there you go. Like the sign.
I saw the sign that opened up my
Nice.
mind, and I was driving a Saturn. Uh, And movies at that time, boy, a bunch come to mind. Probably was never more into the cinematic fare than that time in my life. I was uber passionate. Shawshank Redemption. On
Ooh,
the
good one.
comic side, we had things like The Mask and Dumb and Dumber, where Jim Carrey was just starting his just almost vertical ascent. I mean, he went from, well, he was never a nobody, right? He had In Living Color for about 4 seasons, but once he made that jump into Hollywood, the Pet Detective just catapulted him into the stratosphere, and he was the it comedy guy for the next 15 years, really. Oh, wrong for so long. Well, of course, wanted to show that he could truly act in dramatic fare, which he did. Truman Show started it off where it still had a comedy tone to it, but then it was also very serious.
So good.
The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which was quite good too. So he's done it all, and I think he chooses not to work now, but was always a fan, and those were some of the things that were coinciding with my Saturn usage.
And you said about 130 horsepower. I don't have figures in front of me, but I think that sounds right. And you had a dual overhead cam 4-cylinder.
Yeah, that's right.
Just a super fast movie update. We talked about Maserati, the brothers, and you're a film guy, folks. John here knows a lot about movies, and they have slated a October 15th of 26 release date. I couldn't see that a full score composer was listed yet, but we know that Diane Warren is doing a song for the film, a big name in the industry, very talented as well. Director is Bobby Moresco, who co-wrote Crash, did a bunch of other films.
Mm,
Lamborghini, the man behind the legend, Bent, 10th and Wolf.
wow.
Yeah, so and the cast is crazy. I mean, you've got big names like Hopkins, Anthony Hopkins, Andy Garcia, Al Pacino, some of the top bill names there. Jessica Alba's in there. If it's anything like some of the recent car films that have come out, I mean, I'm definitely going to go see it.
Did you see Michael Mann's last film? I know he's gearing up for Heat 2. That's been approved, but before this, he did, I think it was 23's Ferrari movie with Adam Driver.
Yeah, I was entertained by it. I thought there were a lot of scenes that seemed very authentic. Some people were bashing on it a little bit because of CGI that was used in certain scenes, and I think, he's someone who really strives for authenticity. And if you're really trying to recreate, I guess, how the wreck really happened, there's only so much you can do with practical effects, right? And so you have to do the best you can with what's available. And I think that's what he did. And some great performances in there with Driver and Cruise, and yeah, some great driving scenes. I think he just, he tried to keep it authentic. Bullet, we talked about Bullet as well. Apparently, it's still in development, but it's kind of temporarily, it's kind of a little further back in the queue. It'll be interesting to see it when it comes out. I'm definitely curious, and also finding out what the hero cars will be like, what cars will be used. No further casting announced at this point, and it's just important for folks to know it's a reimagining, not a remake of the original. Obviously, he's an amazing director. It'll be really interesting to see that. You probably know Spielberg has a big UFO film coming out.
Comes out in June with Emily Blunt and many people. I can't remember now off the top of my head who else is involved with the cast. The best crews and the best production values that money can buy. Although he does try to keep his budgets certainly control. And he does. And he often actually ends the shooting schedule kind of like Clint Eastwood a few days early. So
Wow.
he's very mindful of that.
Yeah.
And many people are looking forward to the film.
I don't know if you know this, but Joseph Kosinski is working on a new Miami Vice film,
Right.
and that is going to be a 1985 period piece. And
That's going to be, I'm looking forward to that. If they can capture 1985 Miami,
yeah,
man, bring it on.
yeah,
Bring it.
exactly. I'm same here. That's the kind of Miami Vice I want to see. And so
Michael
they're
B.
eyeing
Jordan, right?
Michael B. Jordan for Tubbs and Austin Butler, your buddy, for Crockett.
Crockett. Yeah.
And yeah, Austin's on fire, and they both are. That sounds like a great cast to me. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's another one I would definitely go see. I like just about everything that Joseph Kosinski directs too. He's just got a great eye. Those are all films that I would go see for sure.
To talk more about the car history, well, I'll kind of stay at least, well, even go back a little further, 1980s. My uncle, yeah, was fortunate enough to purchase a 1987 red Corvette, and beautiful car. And I was all of 16 at the time, and I was in high school, and it was the summer, Minnesota, where I had family, and really don't anymore, but yeah, I had family for a long time in the state of Minnesota, and spent a summer there. And the car was no more than about 4 or 5 months old, and he gave me a nice treat. My uncle did, which is basically offering me up the ability to drive the car as kind of a birthday gift. And I was so awestruck, but so kind of stressed out in the moment, and didn't want to ruffle any feathers or do
Right.
anything wrong to the car, because he was in the passenger seat, and I just didn't want to disappoint him in any way or do anything stupid. He even said, like, why don't you hit the gas a little bit? And I was very tentative. I think I might have hit 60 miles an hour. If it was a few years later and I was a little more mature in my driving, I didn't have much of a driving record at that time.
Sure,
So,
sure.
um, yeah, but it's a beautiful car. It sounded awesome. I remember just giving it some hand washes too in the driveway, and I was so passionate about making sure everything was completely dry and giving it a beautiful shine, and opening the hood, and getting around every crack and crevice. It was a great memory for sure.
Would you go Prince Little Red Corvette on that one, or
Yeah,
something else?
you read my mind, Will, man. I think that's a doozy for that car. Perfect choice.
Your dad had a Jag at the time. Was that an XJ6? Is that what that
Yes.
sedan?
Good memory, good call. You know your vehicles, of course you do. This is cars, movies, and music. So yeah, it was a 1996
Yeah,
XJ6, the heavier model. As you know, about 2 years later, they did away with the steel body, and they
right.
went all aluminum,
Yep,
which did help a lot. Performance in the reviews, a lot of things changed. The car was much lighter because it was a heavyweight of a car, always had been. I think that was their history kind of. So it was a tank. It still had pretty good power. It was a straight six, I believe. It had about I believe it had about a 250 horsepower. So it seamlessly got up to 60, 70, and you didn't know it. It didn't seem that fast. So it
right.
was a nice riding sedan.
Cool.
It rode pretty low. I was in Wisconsin at the time, and that's where my dad lived. The Wisconsin winters ate up that car. It could not perform in those cold, icy conditions at all. Doing letter S's all over the road, and it wasn't really appropriate. And it needs to be on some nice, hard, cool, dry pavement. But good memories from that car. Drove that a fair amount, really, when I would visit, because I was living in California. So I'd come home once or twice a year, and was fortunate enough to drive it around a little bit. And it always was a nice ride. The interior was pretty well appointed, although it certainly, as thinking back, of course, it would look quite dated now, but it
Yeah.
would be good to something to keep. It had a nice look. My dad always loved the body style, and it was kind of his dream. So he made that come to fruition. Ever since he was in college, he told me he always had his eye on a Jaguar, and loved the lineage of it, the British heritage of it, and wanted one. And lo and behold, he got one. He fulfilled that bucket list item.
Years later, kicking it up a few notches.
Yeah, okay. That leads us into the next good segue, right? Yeah, Aston Martin came a calling. Another thing that usually it's about warm, fuzzy memories, and why people gravitates towards, whether it's certain homemade recipes in the kitchen, or in this case, a car,
Yeah.
right? There's something there that triggers somebody to want to go after something. And he always had a fascination with James Bond too. When James Bond first hit the cinemas in the very early 60s, I believe the first film, as you probably know, is Dr. No with Sean Connery, and that was released in 1962. My dad was all of 18 years old, I believe. And yeah, about 19. Yeah, he was 18, 19. And boy, he went to the theaters and he saw Sean Connery, and he saw what he did and how he behaved, and everything he was able to do in a movie action adventure like that. And he fell in love with that character and all that the 007 character would go on to represent. And he wanted a car to match that. Where else but Aston Martin? He tried to find that, and he did find that in the form of a DB11. That's just it's a rocket on wheels, also a very heavy car, right? But actually, as you probably know, Will, also it's a Mercedes-Benz AMG engine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it is the V8 biturbo, exactly,
Sure.
which is a stalwart for the Benz manufacturing. They use that to this day all over, and it could move. It was heavy, but cornered quite well.
They're definitely not slow.
It was 0 to 60 in his model. I think it was 0 to 60 in 4.1. They say.
Yeah. That's no slouch
No,
right there.
no, and then the coupe, the even faster ones, they had Aston Martin built their own engine, as I'm sure you're aware of, and that's, I guess, done fairly well and fairly solid reviews. And I don't know if it's still reliable as something like a Mercedes-Benz engine, but it's held its own, and that engine produced well over 600 horsepower, and then it was easily about a second quicker. It was like 0 to 60 in like 3.4 or something.
And
So
that's the V12 you're talking about.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was available
Yeah.
in that year, 2020, as I think it's continues to be available.
And your dad, he got one off the showroom, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah, he
saw it right
did.
in the showroom.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
it really spoke to him because again, that's the whole James Bond aura, and
Yeah.
he wanted the classic British feel and look. So it's got that beautiful paint job on the exterior, which is help me out here. It's a
British Racing Green, I think.
British, thank you, British
Yeah.
racing
Yeah.
green,
Nice.
immaculate, beautiful to the eye, and the inside is a nice.
Saddle leather, is that what they call it? Saddle? Yeah.
You might be onto something there. Yeah, it's just a very nice finish, nice
Yeah.
stitching, some green stitching around the steering wheel as well, which is a nice touch.
Right,
So
right.
they did it up pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, Alcantara and everything like that. Yeah, beautiful
Got
car.
beautiful lines. The entertainment system was brought in also from Mercedes. It was their second newest model. So they then worked with Aston on that. But in Mercedes' own line of vehicles, of course, they had an upgrade. So it was kind of a step below what current cars were even having then, because I don't think they had too much luck in their own system. So they worked again with Benz on that, like the engines. But I saw some 2020 and boy, the interior looks miles better. It's really just technologically advanced, kind of like something along the lines of these other German automakes that have really good infotainment systems too.
Sure, and even on these sports cars, I feel like Aston does a pretty tasteful job in not getting too taken over by screens.
Yes.
There are some, but I'm a big fan of analog gauges and, not having tons of screens everywhere, but, I know it's kind of a new thing.
I mean you're a pure enthusiast, and I think most purists in whatever line of passions we're talking about, and you with automobiles, yeah, they would like those gauges to be present more often than not, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
I wanna get to a car that, I think well, yeah, I remember you let me drive a couple of times, and that was the Lexus IS that you had. I think it was a 2007, is that right? There was a 3 point was there a 3.5 liter 6, and then yours was the 3 liter, is that right?
I had the 205 horsepower one, and then they had
Right,
the IS 350,
right.
which added another 100. And then within a couple of years, I know Lexus introduced the ISF,
Sure, yeah.
and that produced 416.
Yeah, that's a real screamer, that V8.
Yeah, yeah.
And those are still going for a pretty penny, but that whole generation of ISs that you had are pretty sought after right now. The front end doesn't look like the baleen of a whale with, like, massive amounts of grill. It was kind of just right, still
Yeah.
very aerodynamic
I think
and
it
really
was their
nicely put together.
most popular model of the IS. It was hugely popular. At first, I thought
Yeah,
I'm kind of, I wanted to be kind of an outlier and have something that others didn't. But boy, I came to find out real quick that it was ubiquitous. So in a way, it was like, boy, they're all over. But
yeah.
I mean, I always liked the car. It was a very smooth ride. It really handled well. Those people at Toyota and Lexus know what they're doing, and they
Oh, yeah.
engineered it so it really was a fun drive. I enjoyed really driving the car, which in other times in my life, right, it would just be from getting to point A to point B. But with that, I really had a lot of pleasure driving it.
Yeah. And to each their own, of course, right? Styling design is subjective to, different strokes for different folks and all of that, but I think it's a cleaner design, and there seems to be a trend of certain manufacturers cutting huge holes in the front of their cars, and
Oh
that's a
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
look, I guess, but I think that yours, you had a cleaner design to it, the ISs from that era.
Well, thanks. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it too. So I think it was handled well, and yeah, they didn't get overboard with certain things. And I know what you're talking about. These grills, they want to make like I don't know, they're packing more of a punch from the front side, but it does look a little forced.
So I thought we would jump in. I know we're running out of a little bit of time here. I appreciate you coming on and being here with us thus far, and I know that we could talk about many, many more, and we have, but, looks like we've arrived at our time, and hopefully, maybe we can do more of these segments in the future and pull some things from the back of the rack. Little shout out to the vinyl behind me. Uh,
Yeah.
we can
How
pull out
about
some
that?
some vintage classics and things. Yeah.
And see,
Time
look at
flies when
that.
you're having fun. Yeah, for sure. So stoked that you could join me for this. Thanks for pulling back those memories from, the 80s and 90s and
But yeah, they're soft spots for me too. So I was more than
early
happy to share
2000s.
that with you, Will. And thanks for everything. Thanks for your knowledge and your kindness. And boy, it was a lot of fun. So thanks for having me.
You got it, man. Who knows? Maybe we'll not trying to pitch you live here, but maybe we'll get together for another one sometime soon.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, man. Well,
sounds
Johnny
good.
K and everybody out there, thanks for joining us. And for this episode of Cars, Music, and Movies with Will and guest Johnny K, thank you so much for tuning in.
Two
Take care,
thumbs up.
everybody.
Two thumbs up.
Sounds good, man.
See ya.
All right. Take care, everybody.